So in today's video, we're going to be reviewing one of FunWhole's largest ever sets, the Steampunk City Bridge. This set has over 3,000 pieces, 27 lighting points. It's pretty insane. So let's get into it. And real quick, before we start the full review, I just want to say thank you to FunWhole for sending me this set. As always, all thoughts and opinions are my own. So let me just give a quick overview for this set. It is set number F9047 and it is the latest addition to FunWhole's Steampunk lineup. It has over 3,000 pieces, 9 minifigures, and they've targeted this build at 16 years and above, which I think is spot on because there is an awful lot to put together, some intricate lighting details as well, and overall I think it's just quite a long and challenging build. So 16 years and above, yeah, that's a tick, good decision. So I found that the set takes around 10 to 12 hours to put together, and they have spread it across 19 different numbered bags, which does sound a little bit overwhelming and a bit full on, but don't worry, FunWhole have done a very good job, in my opinion, of pacing this build, so it is done quite well. The instructions are very clear and easy to understand, and that also includes the wiring that goes on because there is an awful lot. FunWhole have 27 different lighting points in this set, so just bear that in mind, there is a lot of cabling that needs to get done. Finally, to complete the overview for this build, there are no graphic stickers and instead they only have pad printed tiles. There are stickers when it comes to the wiring though, and that's to fix some of the electrical units onto the build. Unfortunately, these stickers did have a tendency to peel off, so you have to bear that in mind. It might not even be worth using the stickers that they provide. Now moving on, there are 9 steampunked minifigures within this build, so let's start checking them out. So FunWhole have treated us to 9 steampunk themed minifigures in this set, and the printing is solid and there's a nice variety of accessories. As you can see as we pan along all of them, they all have some great character and charisma and charm to them. However, I do wish that they included more than one female figure because at the moment this seems like a pretty heavy male dominated set, so it would have been nice to get a bit more variation there. Now I do expect FunWhole will be releasing more minifigures in future sets, so personally I think it would be great if they came partially assembled. I'd much rather they just provided the legs and then the torso and then the head as 3 separate parts that you just needed to put together and not all of this clutter that seems to come with them. So having covered the minifigures, and I know some people out there think they are a little bit funky, they do have a bit of a charm to them, let's admit. Let's move on to checking out the full build. So we're going to start with the left tower, and on here you've got some small archways at the base and a series of interconnecting gears that do move when the drawbridge is raised or lowered. The lighting here is also gorgeous, and FunWhole have used LEDs to shine up from the base, and it highlights all of the great brickwork. So as we climb up this tower, we're going to notice that there is a consistent design theme of grey, burgundy and gold spires, and at the top of this tower there's a dome style roof that does pop off, making it very easy to place a minifigure inside. The best part about this roof is that you're not going to have any messy wires when you do take it off because they do make use of some great contact plates. As we jump across to the right tower, it's very similar in design because they're trying to keep it symmetrical here, but it does have some unique details. Instead of the gears at the bottom of the base, there are some cool window designs instead, which gives it a slightly different vibe. Inside, there's also a command center with printed control tiles, as well as oscillating LED lights, which I think is a great little touch. And lastly, as we move to the top of the tower, we can see a grand bell at the top, which is lit up beautifully by a small light just underneath it. Next, I want us to move across to the drawbridge, and mechanically it is clever, however it is also extremely delicate. There are 2 handles on each side of the build, and this will let you raise and lower the bridge, but the gears can be tricky. Personally, what I found is that if you over-rotate the gear systems either way, it could break the gear system inside the build, which happened to me. It meant I had to take the entire build apart pretty much, or at least rip it off so I can get inside the actual bridge system. It is a bit tedious. It happened to me. I don't want it to happen to you. So just make sure that you are careful. As you lower the bridge, you may notice that the platforms do not sit flush with one another, and FunWhole have acknowledged this in their instruction booklet, which does actually confuse me a little bit, because if they know that it doesn't sit flush properly, then why didn't they sort that out before actually releasing the product? It baffles me really. But anyhow, they've mentioned it, and I just want you to be aware of that as well. Now lastly, I just want us to look at the archway as well as the upper walkway, because these are two staple pieces for this build. Personally, I think the arch ties the whole build together. However, it is super fragile, so please handle with care. There are also some transparent tubes underneath that light up, but the LEDs aren't quite bright enough to illuminate them evenly. Now the walkway itself is pretty simple. It doesn't have a huge amount of detail here, and I don't want to criticize it too much because it does actually play quite an integral role to the reinforcement of the structure itself. And lastly, and I was very disappointed by this, but if you look closely on the sign that says City Bridge, it's actually spelt wrong. FunWhole's could have done better here with their quality control, especially because this printed tile sits smack bang in the middle of the build. Now lastly, I just wanted to show you the build here with the lights off, and you can see that it really does shine. The lighting placement is spot on, and it brings the whole steampunk aesthetic to life. It's the kind of build that just makes you want to stand back and admire it for a little bit. So having covered all of that, I think we now just need to mention the price, and it does come in at just under £160, which I think is fair. You do get 3,000 pieces as well as 27 lights within this build. It is on the higher end when we talk price for a FunWhole's set. However, you could always keep your eye out for a sale, or if you want to support the channel, I've got an affiliate link down below in the description where you can get a guaranteed discount at checkout. Alright, so before we round off the video, I do just want to touch on the cons that I found. I know that I mentioned a few of them before, but we're just going to go over all of them here in this segment. So the first con that I want to mention is that one of the gold tubes for my set was too short. I don't know if this is for everyone's set, but it was for mine, and it does look a little bit odd. Next up is actually the size of the build. I actually think it can be a challenge. It's very hard to display, and it's extremely difficult to transport because it is quite fragile on the bases. Next up, and I know I mentioned it quite a bit, was the drawbridge. It is fragile, it doesn't sit flush. It's just frustrating because it's such a lovely part of the build, but unfortunately for me, it doesn't seem like it was fully refined. Next up is that some of, and if not all, the lighting stickers that I applied for this set have slowly peeled off. It is a real shame. I think they need to improve on those stickers in the future if they're still going to be present within a FunWhole's set. Now I must say, and this is just a general one, whilst the build is stunning and lovely to look at, personally I did find it quite difficult to build at times. It's pretty delicate and there's a few intricate parts that made things a little bit difficult, especially with some of the cabling. Now lastly, to finish off the cons, and I mentioned it just before this, it really frustrates me, but the printed tile City Bridge does have that spelling error, and personally I'm a little bit irritated by this because, as I said, it does have such a prominent position within the build, being right in the middle of the bridge, and it's kind of draws you to it, and you read it and it's spelt wrong. It could have easily been fixed during a quality control phase from FunWhole's, so it is just a shame, and hopefully for future builds, if there are some spellings, we're not going to have any errors in them. So overall, what are my thoughts on this build? I think it is a fantastic addition to FunWhole's steampunk lineup. It is visually stunning. They've done a very good job with implementing 27 light points into this build, and I like some of the details within this set. However, we do need to bear in mind that there are a few things wrong. It's not perfect. There is that issue with the City Bridge being spelt wrong, and it can be quite delicate and fragile when transporting around. And lastly, you just need to make sure that you've got enough space to actually display this huge build. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts on this set in the comment section down below. And if you are new around here and you want to support the channel, maybe consider subscribing. As always, I'll see you in the next one.